Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? What's going on? Let me just check something right here. What's what's going on, world? How y'all doing? How y'all living? How y'all doing out there? Okay, well as you can see here, right here, it says live updates. US military begins major combat operations in Iran. You see that right there? Okay. Look, so I'm recording right now. It's almost 4 a.m. And the White House just announced that the United States, in coordination with Israel, has launched strikes on Iran. President Trump used the phrase major combat operations, as it says here on the NBC News, major combat operations. That's war language, ladies and gentlemen. We might be at war with Iran depending on how they respond, how strong they are, what allies choose to stand up with them. We might be at war with Iran. Explosions reportedly shook Tehran. That's a city in Iran. Sirens went up in Jerusalem. That's a city in Israel. It's not a drill. This is a U.S. Israel action against Iran's infrastructure. And no matter how you feel about politics, ladies and gentlemen, when the president uses the word coordinated, that means we actively engaged in war. Real quick, I just want to go and share this with you guys for a few seconds. This is, as you can see from USA Today, it was posted 53 minutes ago. So, breaking news, okay? President Trump confirmed in a video that the United States and Israel launched a major combat operation. Let's get to the video, ladies and gentlemen.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a
Hold on.
vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
All right. Do y'all remember Obama made a deal? Obama made a deal with Iran so that they won't go nuclear. Do y'all remember when Trump came into office? He withdrew from that deal, tried to bully into negotiations. He said that the deal was weak, that if he didn't withdraw or renegotiate, Iran would have weapons and we'd have to go to war. So he had to pull out. He had to put sanctions on them. He had to play tough to prevent this moment here. I don't want to be that guy. I'm going to be that guy. It didn't work. Trump supporters who said Trump, back in 2016, who supported Trump said Hillary was a war hawk. Since Trump's been in office his second term, who's really the war hawk? You know what I mean? Um, we'll get to Venezuela in a little bit, but Trump said this that he would prevent escalation. And here we are today. Here we are right now, full blown escalator. We're at a war. We're at war with Iran. I don't know if you guys like that language, but that's the language. We're at war with Iran. I hit, you know what I mean? Let's you know, he does say something that is true. I'm not going to defend Iran. I'm not. They're an authoritarian regime. They suppress protests. They violate women's rights. That's real. But you know, history shows when you bomb a country, you don't weaken hardliners. You give them an enemy. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Maybe the people who feel oppressed by the regime do rally behind the United States on this, or you know, we make even more enemies in the Middle East. Um, look, let's just See what else he says here.
Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that carried Iran's for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried American military personnel.
EVE Online on Mac immerses you in a universe with thousands.
In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer.
I feel like he always says that. I feel he's like, we're not going to put up with it any longer every time for everyone. If it's immigrants, we're not going to put up with it any longer. If it's Democrats standing up to any of his policies, we're not putting up with it any longer. Like, bro, I feel like I have a kindergarten teacher for president. I don't like it. I'm not trying to be anti-patriotic. It's just he doesn't have like the maturity level or the intelligence level to even deliver a speech about a war that we're not even at the brink of, that we're here. We're at the door now. We're stepping in the door. You know, they let the war through the door. He can't even articulate himself well enough to make me feel comfortable about anything.
From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have.
That part is true. You know, a broken clock is right 2 times a day. That part is true. Iran has played a huge part in resisting what some would call US imperialism, or some could call it US diplomacy. You know, whichever you decide to look at it, Iran has been a disruptor. I'm sure there's like more context there, and if I look into it, the US isn't as innocent as Trump and Republicans and even some Democrats make it seem. Um, I you know, we know that. But that part is true. Iran has been a funder, a funder of Hezbollah and you know the things he goes on to say here.
The regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas.
So now Europe is our very good friends and allies. He went on like the last few months campaigning about how Europe doesn't care about us and we pay in the bulk of all our trade deals and just trashing Europe. But now Europe is our friends and allies.
And could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground.
Raise their missile industry to the ground. Raise it to the ground, ladies and gentlemen. That is your president.
Will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate
Obliterated.
their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to
He definitely can't read because he's reading off a script. IEDs or roadside bombs, as sometimes they're called. Like he can't, bro. He reads like the kid that never wants to get picked on in school to read.
so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration. Strength or minimize the risk to U.S. personnel has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to my administration has taken power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties.
And we may have casualties. Yeah, man. The one thing about war that I'm not a big fan of is we may have casualties, you know. Whatever though, I guess like human beings are collateral damage in your geopolitical world games. That's not unique to Trump though, or MAGA or the Republican Party. That is just back to my reoccurring theme on this podcast. Be anti-capitalist and hold the ruling and elitist class accountable because they do not give a nothing about you.
That often happens in war, but we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future.
That often happens in war by your president who dodged a draft.
And it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death.
At least they have the opportunity. Man, I don't even know because this administration stay lying. Maybe they don't even have the opportunity to just lay down their weapons. We'll see how it plays out. We'll get stories. We'll hear reports later on. Hopefully, they are able to just put their weapons down if they choose to, and they're not killed for being born in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations.
Openly, just saying the quiet part out loud these days, openly toppling governments left to right. We have Venezuela. I know that the vice president is in there, but going into Venezuela, we spoke about this on the pod. Going in there, using these weapons that are just destructive, killing, kidnapping the President Maduro and his wife. Whether you agree with Maduro and his politics, it doesn't set a good precedent. It doesn't set a good precedent for world sovereignty, like for a nation's sovereignty on the world stage. Cuba, the reports are that they're on the brink of collapse, and now we have this guy saying that Iran, when we're done, take your government because we're destroying Iran. We're destroying the government. That's three that I could think of off the top of the head. If this was like a Star Wars movie, we are the bad guys. We're the stormtroopers, and that's the big pruny old dude, the Emperor right there. It's crazy, right? We're the bad guys. I'm all for self-preservation, and like I said, Iran isn't innocent. The regime isn't innocent, and they have their transgressions as well, but I don't like where we are right now. I don't like it. I don't like being the moral police when he's the leader because this man has no morality. He's absence of all morality.
For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women.
I'm gonna go here to BBC. This was 5 minutes ago. Let me go to BBC. They're reporting on this.
You're watching BBC News. Breaking news this hour. Israel's defense minister says it's launched a preemptive attack against Iran. Israel Katz declared a special and permanent state of emergency in all areas
That looks like Iran right now.
of Iran and closed the country's airspace. An Israeli defense official says the attack has been coordinated with the US and had been planned for months. Smoke can be seen coming from buildings in Tehran, and people have reportedly been running away in panic there. Mehrabad Airport, just outside Tehran, has also come under attack. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, is said to not be in Tehran. The U.S. embassy in Israel, the U.S. embassy in Israel said the attack follows weeks of tensions in the region, with the U.S. forces massing around Iran and President Trump threatening to attack unless it agrees.
So, according to Israel, the U.S. and Israel have been in talks and have been planning this for months. Okay. I just want to get something off my chest real quick. I'm not naive about the timing. when the country shifts into war posture, oversight conversations disappear. What am I talking about? Election debates get quiet. Media focus consolidates. It gets into one place. What you're going to see for the next few days is just going to be Iran, Iran, Iran. So what does that mean? We don't see Cuba. We don't see Venezuela. We don't see what was being drafted for the election control. Most importantly, we don't see Epstein. We don't see ICE. We don't see Pam Bondi. We don't see Kristi Noem. We don't see JD Vance. We just see Iran, Iran, Iran. And when you think of Trump, you'll think of Iran for the next few days. War simplifies everything. And let's be clear about the context. Just days ago, national news broke out that allies of the president or people within the cabinet, or I forget the word that they used, anti-election advocates or activists or whatever. Well, those people, they were circulating a draft of an executive order that would have declared a national emergency to expand presidential powers in elections. That included banning mail-in ballots, which was a big factor in the 2020 election, because there is speculation, and I just want to say it's speculation, that the 2016 and 2024 elections voting machines were manipulated. Just go look at the reports, go look at the data. You decide. It's being underreported, but you decide. Anyway, banning mail-in ballots and even voting machines, all justified by these unproven claims of foreign interference, specifically Chinese foreign interference, which hasn't been found, but that was in the draft. This give me a second. This triggered real alarm from legal scholars and civil liberty advocates. It was all over the news cycle today and when it broke. Because it overrides constitutional authority that the states have to run elections. That's going to leave the media cycle. That's going to be out of the media cycle. It ran for like a day and now it's out because of war. At the same time, the Department of Justice is now publicly reviewing whether it improperly withheld portions of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Whether we know it did, right? We know the news there, including FBI interview summaries alleging abuse by President Trump, allegedly, after incorrectly releasing millions of documents under the Epstein File Transparency Act, like redacting the wrong things, just not being transparent at all. That might leave the media cycle. Maybe not social media. Thank God for social media and independent media sources and influencers and TikTokers. Maybe won't leave there, but it'll leave the media. Media attention will now shift and focus on the war in the Middle East. And just keep your mind open to that. And I'm not going to say strikes are a distraction because, I'm saying, because I'll get to the background of why this is happening as well, too, why this is like an opportune time. But logically, this is like a calculated political shift in direction and accountability, which, by the way, in the United States, accountability almost doesn't exist. It shrinks even more. The idea of holding those who are in power accountable shifts even more when the threat of war is there or when war is there. Now, here's what's happening on the ground in Iran. This is also why it was it was a great opportunity for them. Iran isn't just like some distant adversary on the map. Iranian people themselves are in open revolt against the regime. You heard them say, when we topple the government, you take it back. Mass protests erupted across the country in late December. Not just a few scattered demonstrations, but thousands of Iranians in cities from Tehran, and I'm going to butcher these names, Isfahan to Shiraz, demanding basic dignity and an end to oppression and political change. These protests have been the widest since the 1979 revolution. It started with economic issues, inflation, crashing currency, everyday people unable to afford food and water, and it like rapidly grew into a full rejection of the theocratic authoritarian regime, the system itself. And the regime responded with force, lethal force, thousands killed, people put away, the media silenced on it, internet blackouts, and it cut off its people from the world. Young men and women, university students, shopkeepers, bazaar workers, they took to the streets. They were screaming and chanting "Death to Khamenei." I think that's how you pronounce their leader's name. And remember, this country has been under authoritarian control since 1979, when the Shah was overthrown and replaced by Ayatollah Khamenei, and they have been an oppressive regime ever since. This is why tonight's strike matters from a political stance. It was a country already teetering on the edge, and the US and Israelis' military presence might be enough. And as you heard from Trump's speech, what they believe will be enough to destroy this regime. Listen, that's good. That's fine. It's well and dandy for geopolitical. I'm not for geopolitical politics. I'm not an expert, but listen. Meanwhile, here, while we're at home, there are real debates about executive power. I think yesterday he started talking about he's entitled to a third term, getting power over the elections in the name of security, and scrutiny over how Venezuela was handled and oil revenue handled, the bank accounts in Qatar, the board of peace. I think it's whatever he did, the 10 million that he's suing from his own government. I mean, 10 billion. I think I forget the amount. Look, again, I'm going to say, I'm not saying that we started a war to distract from other controversies, but it helps. It helps. Let's shift over to what could happen. I'm sorry, I'm a little chatty today. I really do wish Martin and the live were here to just shut me up. But what happens here? Let's take a step back. War doesn't just cost lives, it costs power. We've seen serious debate nationwide about control of foreign oil revenue. Thomas Massey, let's see, Venezuela. Let me just read something here. Venezuela. Okay, Venezuelan oil proceeds to be held overseas, and Massey called it a second treasury overseas. So there was money from the oil. I think it's like 500 million or so that Trump gets from Venezuela's oil after kidnapping their president, and he puts it in an account in Qatar. Massey calls it the second treasury overseas. That's not constitutional. Why do I bring that up? Because Iran is also rich in oil, and if it falls and US gets power, what stops Trump from personally enriching himself like he seems to do, allegedly, at every turn? I don't know. Man, let's see. Okay. War means uncertainty for oil markets. If the Strait of Hormuz, and that's like, let me give me a second. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's most critical maritime oil checkpoint, with roughly 20% of global oil consumption, over 20 million barrels per day, transiting through this 21-mile wide waterway. Some would say if a administration that is always looking out to personally enrich themselves gets control of the Strait of Hormuz, anyway, I'm alluding to that they're going to pocket some change illegally again. if the Strait of Hormuz gets tense, that's 20% of oil for the globe, prices go up. That means cost for everything goes up: gas, groceries, shipping, everything. Also, Iran won't just stay silent. Um, this is the people that fund Hezbollah, militia groups. What happens then? Where are their allies? Who are Iran's allies? And more importantly than who are Iran's allies, who will step up to be Iran's allies? Because I did a little Google search, and state partners include Russia and China. What do they do in the, China's projected to be a world power. We'll see. Um Look, I personally don't cheer war. I don't cheer escalation, and I don't think power should concentrate behind claims of emergencies, whether it's war abroad or emergencies at home. Tonight might be a limited military action, or it might be opening the chapter to a way bigger story. I'm seeing people say this is World War III. Um, I've been saying for a while, I think World War III started on October 7th. October 7th, the Israel attacks. I do think it's possible that on October 7th, 2023, when you open your history books later on, that might be the actual start of World War III. So during the Biden administration, um, Hamas and Israel's conflict might have kicked off World War III. But maybe before that, maybe it's Russia invading Ukraine. I'm not sure. We'll see. But if this is bigger and it grows, uh, executive power, election control, Epstein files, all of that is going to go to the background, and he might get his third term. Look, I just want to go in and see what else is being said. This is from Fox News. Let's go look at Fox News. Okay, this is Fox News. Let's look at what Fox News has to say.
Let me just read part of a transcript of our Peter Doocy's interview earlier today with President Trump, who is traveling in Texas. Peter said, "Is there a risk that a strike could turn into a long, drawn-out conflict in the Middle East?" And the president responds, "I guess you could say there's always a risk. You know, when there's a war, there's a risk in anything, both good and bad. We've had tremendous luck with myself, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi. Everything's worked out. And then we do the Midnight Hammer and so many others. Everything's worked out, and we want to keep it that way." Let's talk with Victoria Coates, who's been good enough to rejoin us. She's a former Deputy National Security Advisor. Victoria, when you let the genie out of the bottle, when you uncork the U.S. military, anything can happen. But the planning that has gone into this strike, I'm sure, has been extensive, especially jointly with the Israelis. And we're trying as best we can to blind the Iranians and just prevent any kind of a return response.
Indeed, and I think really important that the president has taken ample time here to do that planning, John. That we've got all of these targets obviously laid out with us and the Israelis. We're hearing dozens of them. That this may be a 4-day initial strike. So this is not the limited strike that was reported earlier this week. That would be just something small to get.
All right, let's get to that. It's a 4-day strike. So I said tonight might be a limited military action, but for what we know, at least it'll be 4 days, according to what they're saying on Fox News.
Get the Iranians back to the table. I think the president clearly.
This is Victoria Coates. She's a former Deputy National Security Advisor, of course.
Concluded after that last round of talks in Geneva that the Iranians weren't serious, and so it looks like they're going all in. So yeah, this can go. The Iranians get a vote here, so this could go a lot of different ways. But clearly, the Israelis and the Americans are going for a decisive strike.
Yeah, the fact that they targeted the presidential compound or
That is a wild graphic. It looks like someone drew it on an iPhone. According to Fox News, take it with a grain of salt. That is Iran's ballistic missile ranges.
perhaps the compound of the Ayatollah himself, that suggests that they are trying to decapitate the Iranian regime.
Indeed. I mean, that again, there are reports, and one of the things I found in my experience is first reports are almost certainly wrong. So, we're going to have to continue to gather a lot of information, and obviously, Jen and Lucas are doing yeoman's work getting that information to your audience, but it does look like they went after Ayatollah Khamenei's personal residence, and that the Iranian people were cheering as they saw that smoke plume go up. And that's the other part of this is if these strikes are carried out with impunity, if Iran really doesn't have an immediate response or any effective air defenses, that's a clear message to the Iranian people that, they're not 100 feet high. They're not inevitable. And
I want to share something with you guys real quick. I was going to MS Now to see if there's anything else on this right now, and MS Now has not updated anything for their clips. But I want to show you what the news is before everything shifts over to Iran. 3 hours ago, toxic Trump is tipping Texas for Democrats. Walls are closing in 4 hours on missing Epstein documents. Wound up in weird. Maddow's instant reaction to the State of the Union. That's not Epstein, but 1 day ago, put Trump under oath for Epstein probe. 8 hours ago, Trump's Epstein Island, hoping officials in trouble again. Hopping. Hooked on phonics, guys. 7 hours ago, Republicans are interviewing the wrong president in the Epstein probe. The Hex, I didn't even tell you, the Anthropic OpenAI Hegseth thing, he wants to use AI in a way that, well, we'll get to that one day. But yeah, the Epstein file for Bill Clinton. Influential podcasters begin to sour on Trump. Yeah, man, this is going to change everything. How convenient.
maybe they will take things into their own hands.
Yeah. And if you can decapitate the IRGC as well, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, they have been responsible for so much of the bloodshed against those, well, the president said 32,000 protesters.
I'm trying to see if I can get anything that's happening right now. I got it live from BBC News. It is 4:30 a.m. in New York City.
Like Tehran, and it's expected that the same, at least for many, will happen because people need to save themselves. It's not clear where the bombs are landing, despite that it seems that targets are strategic targets, but we should not forget that these targets are in
Israeli media says 3 explosions have been heard in downtown Tehran.
populated areas, including the residential office for the president, and also the house for the supreme, the main house for supreme leader. There are.
Look at these comments. These comments are insane. Long live the people of Iran. Criminal versus criminal. Open your eyes to history. Iran go. Israeli flags everywhere. Thank you, IDF. Glory Army to free Iran from Pakistan. Stand with Iran. Who started hitting and why? Operation Island Distraction. Did Congress approve this? Trump for prison 2027. It's mixed reviews. Let's see what.
A Bahrainian statement there. Well, let's speak to Lise Doucette now, our chief international correspondent. Lise, what's your analysis of what's happening in the past few hours in Iran?
This is a confrontation which is very different from what happened last year, where, at least when it came to the region, Iran carefully telegraphed its attacks, took care to minimize the risk of causing American casualties. With the reports are coming in, they're still coming in as I speak to you, that there are explosions being heard in Kuwait, also in the United Arab Emirates. Qatar, as you've been saying, had issued a warning to its citizens to shelter in place. There's also reports coming in of airstrikes in Iraq. Iran had warned that this time it would not hold back, and that all of U.S. military bases across the region, including U.S. military personnel, there's more than 40,000 across the region, would be at risk. And President Trump himself acknowledged in
A base in Bahrain, a U.S. base in Bahrain has already been hit in a missile attack in retaliation. That's what we know at 4:32 a.m.
his 8-minute video that there would possibly be the loss of American lives. But he made it clear that America, as he saw it, was under threat, and he was ordering this war to commence. So a military operation that the Pentagon has codenamed Epic Fury.
Lise, in his long announcement, President Trump said that regime change was very much on the table. What does that look like in your view? You were just in Iran in the past few weeks. Is your sense that this is going to target the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, the IRGC? How far do you think this could go?
Yes, President Trump and U.S. Commander-in-Chief we've often reported on BBC that he has sent conflicting messages about whether this was about Iran's nuclear program, that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, or that it was about broader regime change. He named all of these reasons this morning in that first post. And this is history tells us that there's been no example of an order, a government, an order being brought down by airstrikes alone. But President Trump has repeatedly said that he wants to keep his troops out of forever wars. He doesn't want to put boots on the ground. He made it clear that it would be up to the Iranian people to do that. Remember, during the protests of...
Well, that's cool. No forever wars. How about no wars ever?
Iranians saw that when they take to the streets, that the security forces have lethal force, that they're able and willing to use. The death toll is in the many thousands. It's still being counted. There are still people, there are still families who don't know the fate of their loved ones. So it is a very unpredictable and a very perilous time. And this time, President Trump, unlike the lead up to the U.S.-led invasion,
That looks like Iran. That looks like imagery from Iran, right there.
In the region, he is doing this just with Israel. He seems to believe that right and history is on his side, but there is no evidence that we have seen. No evidence that this preemptive attack described by Israel, that there was an imminent Iranian threat on Israel or on the United States. So a new war has been unleashed, and this morning, in these early hours, no one can say with certainty when and how it will end.
Guys, again, I want you guys to remember what I said. There might have not been an imminent threat, but what there was a golden opportunity. Hey, look, a Baccarat commercial. I really want Baccarat, guys. I have ADD. I'm sorry. But what there really was is the opportunity to go in there and go in at a time where things are shaky and the government, the regime, the authoritarian regime is very unpopular. Look, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll probably do something else later with the guys, or Sunday we'll talk about this. Thank you for hanging with me. Full transparency, these are hard for me. to just come in here dolo and do this. It's difficult, but I just wanted to get y'all the news as quickly and as informative as I possibly could. So salute to the world. Love y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the little notification bell. This is the Can't Focus podcast, 1/3, Kano Music. Shout out to More Hopeful. Shout out to the live raps. We'll get back to y'all at a later date.